Shanti, good morning. There is this very famous TV show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You know this? So, this is our subject today. Who wants to be a millionaire? I think a lot more wealthy than a millionaire. Nowadays, nobody bothers with millionaires. It's all billionaires, right? And maybe Baba is offering us to be gazillionaires or some very, very large level of wealth. So think about your wealth level that you would like. How much do you want? This is the 4th of December. And the essence, sweet children, body consciousness makes you very unhappy. And the word for unhappy, duk, also includes the concept of poverty. And so when you are body conscious, then you would be inclined to do some negative karma, which puts you into loss. And that means loss of money, a loss of good relations, loss of health, loss on all those 3 levels. Therefore, become soul conscious, and the burden of sins, the weight of your sins, this energy that presses you down and that prevents you from taking power from Baba, and prevents you from being who you really are. It influences and pressure, and it doesn't allow you to be free. So, question. On what basis do you receive a position of wealth in the Golden Age? So, in the Golden Age, you have very big palaces studded with diamonds and jewels. So these will be expensive, right? And plus you have a very large amount of land, so that will be expensive also. You have your fleet of airplanes, that's also expensive. And you have tons and tons of people who are your belongings. And so you need a lot of money. Yeah? I don't see anybody looking greedy for money here. But he's offering you, so you think about that. So the answer is you become wealthy on the basis of imbibing knowledge. The knowledge is essentially the knowledge of the philosophy of karma. So if you do really good karma, there will be consequences. However much wealth of knowledge someone imbibes and then donates, accordingly, that one will receive a wealthy status and becomes ever wealthy. Study the study and also teach others. In order to become a world emperor, many people, not many, a few people try to be the rulers of the whole world, but they couldn't, because they did it by the use of violence and various things like this. So you want to become a world emperor. For that, do a lot of royal service. Royal meaning real. Royal means real. Royal means that you are really deeply a benefactor of people. And royal also means discreet. You're not showy about it. Discreet is good. Remove all defects, character defects, become fully soul conscious. Remember the Father with patience, depth, and sincerity. Actually, in the Hindi, it doesn't have the word sincerity, but I checked it out, and it's quite an interesting thing, which I will tell you. Patience and gambhirta. So gambhirta is usually translated as maturity, but gambhir actually means deep, deep as the deep ocean. Now they just found an airplane 4,000 meters below sea level. So sincerity is the word, usually you hear the word imandar, and imandar is usually translated as loyal. And but actually imandar means sincere. So this is very interesting that in the translation they put in this word sincere, because it's really very right. To remember Baba with patience, depth, and genuinely recognizing who he is. And sincere also means that you're not doing it casually and just for show, but real, deep, genuine recognition of God, sincere. So this is very good. The song is, have patience, O mind, your days of happiness are about to come. Om Shanti. Who said this? The Father said, have patience. It's a long journey. The Father said, have patience to the children. He did not say this to the whole world. Although all the souls are his children, not all of them are sitting here. Only you children, you who have been made into Brahmins through the mouth of Brahma, only you children who study this knowledge, you know that this world of sorrow is truly changing. And we are studying for the land of happiness, golden age. That means we are following Srimad. So there are two kinds of Srimad. One is recommendations for conduct, but the other is concepts. So the concept of the soul, the concept of God, the concept of eternity, the concept of drama, the details of the philosophy of karma. This is all Srimad. You children are given patience. In fact, the whole world is receiving patience, but incognito. You understand that you are listening directly to Shiv Baba. Not everyone listens like this. He is the unlimited Father, the unlimited remover of sorrow and bestower of happiness. He removes your sorrow and shows you the path to happiness. When you have happiness, there can be no sign of sorrow. The world of happiness is called the Golden Age, and the world of sorrow is called the Iron Age. Only you children know that there is full happiness. That means health, wealth, good relationships, beauty, everything you could desire in the Golden Age. And that is also 16 celestial degrees complete. That means you have the full light of the full energy of Shiv Baba that you absorbed. Then the degrees gradually decrease until the day of Umavas. So right now it is a new moon. So you get just a little line of light. A thin crescent line is there. And then the night is very dark. When you are 16 celestial degrees complete, there is full happiness. In the Iron Age, there are no degrees, no light of the moon. So there is sorrow. The whole world is eclipsed by the eclipse of Maya. So he talks about sin as a burden, a weight, but it's also a shadow, that even if you have light, but it covers the light, so you can't really function. So the eclipse of Maya, and this is why it says when there's that eclipse, you have to give a donation. So what can you do when there is a heavy karmic account that comes up for settlement? Because time to time it happens. Boom, heavy karma. And it's strong. So you can't meditate when that's there. And so you have to be very, very deep in your chart checking to see what this is about, what weakness you have that's being flagged up by this heavy karmic account. And also do a lot of service, because that's tangible. And whatever you can in a situation like that, that's called donation. And the eclipse gets removed. So this is why the Father says, first of all, renounce the body consciousness that you have in you. So body consciousness means arrogance. So one of the themes that coming through this Murli is reactiveness. One is you can be easily corrupted, bribed easily. And the other is when you don't get what you want, reactive. So these two are what is meant by body conscious. It's very subtle. So this body consciousness causes you a lot of sorrow. Remain soul conscious, and you will be able to remember the Father. When you remain body conscious, you are unable to remember the Father. That body consciousness persists for half the cycle. By becoming soul conscious in this last birth, first this weight of sins will be removed. And you will also become 16 celestial degrees, full light and subtle pradhan. I was discussing with Sukanya this word for impurity, patit. And it's also there in the Upanishads and the Vedas, that how the soul has layers and layers and layers of this, like stone. How does a stone get formed? The sand sits down and the weight of the water presses it and makes it into stone. So the soul is affected by karma like that, you see. And you have to take it off. Many do not understand this aspect of body consciousness. It is just body consciousness that makes people unhappy, and arrogance, and all the other vices follow. So arrogance is the thing that makes you react. So you react by anger or greed or a different kind of desire, or putting yourself down, putting yourself up. All these are reactions, vices, emotions. Otherwise, it is difficult to renounce them. The practice of body consciousness has become so firm that no one considers himself to be a soul. I am so-and-so, I am this, I am that, all this. All the vices have to be donated for this. So first of all, renounce body consciousness. It means arrogance. Then lust, anger, etc. come after that. That one, Shiv Baba, is your father. And because of body consciousness, you have been considering your physical fathers alone to be your father. So your father gives you your identity, plus your inheritance. your position in society, all this. So now you have that from God. Your position in society is what? Your Shiv Shakti. Your inheritance is what? All the knowledge. That's pretty good. You don't need anything else, right? So now the main thing is how to become pure. In the impure world, all are impure. No one can be pure. Only the one Father purifies you and takes you back home in great happiness. So destruction is not generally considered as an event of great happiness. But he says, I'll take you back home in great happiness. So it means easily let go of the whole world. Think about it. You children are now concerned about having yoga. You have to die alive. That means let go of everything and everyone, and past, present, future, everything. To break body consciousness means to die. So clearly he is referring to what we also call ego death. So ego death means no reactions to anything. We souls remember Baba and we become pure from impure. Baba alone taught you the way to become pure, and he is now explaining it to you once again. He will explain it to you again every cycle, and no one in the world can explain it. So the main thing is to remember Shiv Baba. And that too, when you hear this through the BKs, because people remember Shiv Baba not through the BKs, like in Bhakti they remember Shiva, but that won't work. You have to remember Shiv Baba through the BKs, that means through Brahma Baba, that means as he explains himself through the medium of Brahma, etc. Because you are to receive the grandfather's inheritance. So he is not your grandfather until there is Brahma Baba in between you and him. So this father, through whom you receive it, is definitely required. Brahma Baba, the father through whom you receive the inheritance from the grandfather. You definitely have to receive directions through this corporeal one. Many children think they can have yoga with Shiv Baba and forget Brahma Baba. But then how would you hear what Shiv Baba has to say? You couldn't. They say, we have no connection with Brahma Baba. Okay, then consider yourselves to be souls and remember Shiv Baba. Go home, sit there, but then how would you receive the knowledge of the world cycle? You can remember Shiv Baba, but you don't have access to what's in his mind until he speaks it out through the body of Brahma, right? And what you want is what's in his mind. So how would you be able to remember Baba without understanding this? Knowledge has to be received through this one alone. You will not receive knowledge again. You receive new points through the Father every day. How would you be able to understand anything without Brahma and the Brahma Kumaris? All this has to be learned. The Father says it is possible that those who sit at home and make effort to attain the karmatit stage would go into liberation, and they can go to mukti, but they cannot go into jivan mukti. So Jivan Mukti is a state where you are in the golden age, free from all negative karma, but you have accumulated such positive karma that it puts you into the golden age. So they would not be able to do that. If you imbibe the wealth of knowledge and you donate it, you become wealthy. How else would you become ever wealthy? You must definitely take the support of the Murli. And the Murli is even the foundation of your meditation. You have to study it. But there are many who come who will just receive their aim of going to the soul world, and they will go to liberation. Because all the souls of the world have to come here sooner or later, right? And so some go to the golden age, not too many, but everybody has to go to the soul world. So explain to all people, simply remember the Father, and you will become pure and Sato Pradhan. Then, when you take the wealth of knowledge, you will become wealthy in the golden age. Otherwise, you will go to liberation, to mukti, the soul world, and then you will come down at the time of the path of devotion, and you will perform devotion. You will not be able to benefit anyone because people definitely need knowledge in order to become deity. So a deity means a giver. So if you want to benefit someone, you have to enable them to be very wealthy, and then only they can be a giver. So if somebody doesn't become wealthy, then what are they going to give? After listening to this knowledge, you must also relate it to others. Look how hard you try to explain to people at the exhibitions, but in spite of that, it just doesn't fit in anyone's intellect. A soul is such a tiny point. Every soul has received their own role. You know this at this time. It says in the Murli, there's female souls and male souls, but there aren't. They're genderless. You know this at this time. All human beings are actors, and this play is predestined. Do you like that it's predestined? I am really enjoying that it's predestined these days. There also has to be the destruction of the old world. It is remembered that Ram went and Ravan went, and then their big, small family of Ram and the big family of Ravan. No matter who goes, that means whoever dies, but you cannot experience sorrow. Because whoever dies, they're going to a better place, right? And they're going to Baba. So why should we be experiencing sorrow? And we'll find them again pretty soon. You know that this drama is predestined and everyone is to be destroyed. That means the bodies plus their status and all their staff and everything. Kings, queens, sages, holy men, they all will die. And who will collect their ashes? So Baba says they anyway only collect people's ashes to glorify someone's name. Neither is there any benefit in that, nor do the departed souls receive any happiness by you picking up their bones and ashes. Pretty gruesome, but it's like that. On the path of devotion, whatever people do, it is without understanding. There's so many rituals about funerals and death and ashes and Ganges River and all these things, and you have very expensive burial plots. But once the soul is gone, the body is dust to dust. The Father is now making you so sensible. Sensible means you understand everything. Constantly look at these pictures and think about what Baba is making you into by teaching you this. However, if it is not in someone's fortune, then he cannot imbibe it. It's written here, put into practice, but it's dharana. So dharana means you can't absorb it, so you can't act on it. Baba explains a great deal, but it needs to be applied. After becoming the Father's children, can you not do service? The Father is the benefactor, but some children continue to cause loss for many others. They disregard the feelings of those who have pure feelings for this spiritual university. They put them down, they insult them, they tell them they're stupid, they're being taken over by an evil cult or something like that. Right? So people who do that, they are doing sinful actions. There is the interference of evil spirits. Evil spirits means angry people who don't understand this. And this is why it is remembered that those who defame the Satguru cannot reach their destination. It's a very, very famous phrase that is used in Hinduism, usually it's used, gurus will use it. If you don't have a guru, you can't get salvation, so you better get a guru. And in that way, gurus have followers, but it's not those gurus, it's really God, the Satguru. And you need him to reach mukti and jivan mukti. And if you go against him, then there's a problem. Both Bap and Dada are included in this. So both Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba. No one can do anything against the incorporeal one. What could they say to him? But people did a lot of opposition to Brahma Baba. On the path of devotion, they say that God causes sorrow, but it's due to ignorance that they believe that. So Baba doesn't get upset that they insult him. He just says, you're insulting me, so there are consequences for you. You children know how much you rejected the Father under the influence of agyan. So agyan is translated as ignorance, but under what basis would a person reject God? It's under the influence of incorrect spiritual information, like the concept of the omnipresence of God makes people reject God. So there is no one who can make those who are Tamo Pradhan become Sato Pradhan. So instead, they just give wrong directions by saying that God is omnipresent. So the people are so confused. And this is why they ask, how can God enter the body of Brahma? So then Baba says, okay, then whose body should he enter if not this one? So Brahma is the name given to the body of the soul who was Krishna and Narayan. And then in his last birth, he became Dada Lekraj. And then Shiv Baba picked him up and said, you don't know who you are, but I know who you are. So come along, you're now Brahma. And let's go. So would he enter the body of Krishna? So it's the soul of Krishna, but the body of Brahma, right? How could there be Brahma Kumars and Kumaris if he comes in the body of Krishna? It'd be Krishna Kumaris, right? And they would become deity Kumars and Kumaris. So that's not how it works. It would definitely Brahma Kumars and Kumaris who become Brahmins. And so Brahmins are required for the yajna. And the yajna is required to destroy the agyan, the wrong knowledge. So Baba cannot do anything without Brahmins. And this is why this one's picture must definitely be put here. People will say, why do we have this picture of Brahma Baba? So this Brahma is also a Brahmin. He was also Lokik Brahmin, as well as he's a Brahmin, Brahma and a Brahmin. Prajapita Brahma is needed in Bharat. As the days go by, while sitting at home, many continue to receive visions of Brahma. Many. And there will continue to be growth. They see visions of Brahma and they look for him. Those who have it in their parts will come running here. Many people believe that God is here somewhere in some disguised form. They say that God comes secretly in the night like a thief, and he's heavily disguised. This is all in Christianity, they say this. So no one apart from the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, can grant visions. There's a poem, very famous poem called The Master, which describes all this. So Shiv Baba carries out establishment through Brahma. He gives knowledge, and he also creates the Brahman Dharma. I'm not going to call it religion, because I don't think we're a religion, are we? But the Dharma means the way. So we are a way, and it's only for one birth. So I'm going to just call it Brahman Dharma. The Dharma of Brahmins is definitely needed. This is the highest of all. Prajapita Brahma is very high. He is said to be next to God. There isn't anyone else in the subtle region. They've all reincarnated or something. There would be just establishment through Brahma, and that's all. So in the subtle regions, there is normally the idea of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar. But Brahma and Vishnu and Shankar are all the same person, just different stages. So Vishnu is his perfect stage, and Shankar is his yogi stage. And the picture of the Trimurti that they made first, there was the same face on all three, you see. So people found that very distressing, but it's really meaningful. So only Brahma in the subtle region. Brahma then becomes the deity. Then after 84 births, he becomes Brahma once again. So Brahma and Saraswati become Lakshmi and Narayan. So Gyaneshwari. It's not really princess of knowledge, but Gyaneshwari, it would be a deity of knowledge. Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. Then become Rajeshwari, so that is the princess. So how Brahma becomes Vishnu and how Vishnu becomes Brahma is a very first-class point. You can explain it very well. This knowledge is received from the one fathers. It's all about identity. Who are you? You don't know. He knows. And the only way you find out who you are is by your relationship with the knowledge. It's a mirror, he says these pictures are mirrors. You see yourself in these mirrors, that you are the one who take 84 births. So explain very well at the exhibitions. Why do you become confused about Brahma? There are so many Brahmins, so you can't have a Brahmin unless it's born through the mouth of Brahma. And so if there are lots of Brahmins, there must be Brahma. Otherwise, how did you get born? That proves Brahma. Only when someone first becomes a Brahmin can he then become a deity. You can't go from a Shudra to a deity. That cannot happen. You have to go Shudra to Brahmin and Brahmin to deity, because the purification process. So the Brahmin life is a purification life. First become a Brahmin, then you can become a deity who is a master of the world of Vishnu. It is well known that there is the day of Brahma and the night of Brahma. So if there isn't Brahma, there can't be a day or a night of Brahma. There has to be Brahma. And day and night is on the earth, so he has to be on the earth. So sit in front of these pictures and practice explaining. Those who want to do service will have thoughts of nothing but doing service. They will run to do service. The knowledge should be percolating in your intellects. Only when your aprons, that's your intellect, your aprons are full, will you have that enthusiasm, and then you will run to do service. It is impossible if you have knowledge, yet you can't explain it. There are quite a lot of people who say, yes, Baba, I have the knowledge, but I can't explain it. He says, what are you talking about? If you can't explain it, you don't have it. If you have it, you have to be able to explain it. So why then do you take knowledge? If you take knowledge, you must also donate it. If you don't donate it, then you cannot make others like yourselves. In that case, what kind of Brahmins are you? Third grade. This is the business of first grade Brahmins. So our inheritance is the jewels of knowledge, and we deal in knowledge. And then we become wealthy through dealing in knowledge, jewels of knowledge. Baba explains to you children every day. Some children continue to do service, whereas others also do disservice. If you are unable to do service, you would definitely be doing disservice. Wherever you children go, definitely do service. When the knowledge is given fully, the special children do not make any mistakes. How do you make a mistake? It's really, I think, by being inattentive. You shift out of soul consciousness for a second, you don't notice it, you make a mistake. That's how it works, right? And then, oops, you get back into your soul consciousness. So to not make any mistakes means be very attentive. Daddy Janki used to say, I am careful at every step, every action, every word, carefully decided on. Only then would they become beads of the rosary. The 8 beads are the main ones. The exam is very stiff, very difficult exam. It's very few people who pass such a stiff exam. This is a reference to the Indian civil service exam. So if you want to study for the civil service, that means you're preparing yourself for political position. That means you really have to know your stuff. So this is a very comprehensive study, and you will be checked. Do you know what you're doing? So very good. And once they've got that exam, then the government has to employ them at a high position. In America, you don't have this, but in Russia, there are these ranks, and this refers to the Russia before communism started. And in Russia, there are 14 ranks of the civil service, and accordingly you get money and like that. So in India, there must have been something similar to that in terms of ranks, so that according to a person's rank, you have to bow to them and all this. And it's very hierarchical system. So then the government has to employ them. Baba has to make you into the masters of the world. And this is why only a few pass. There would be hundreds of thousands of subjects. And this is why Baba asks you, would you not become an emperor or a wealthy subject? What do you want? So another alternative, would you want to become poor? Speak. What will you become? Yeah, emperors have many maids and servants who are given as part of the dowry. So the Golden Age is socially very complicated. Make effort to claim a good status. A lot of people, they say, why do we have to have a good status? Still, he says, get a good status. Become so clever that everyone invites you. They generally do call someone, and you know this, don't you? Those who do not have those qualifications are never invited. You know, you're invited to do service, and you have to give some classes and lectures and all these things. So if you don't get invited, those who don't get invited wouldn't know that the reason they don't get invited is because they're third class. Some are serviceable, and they continue to run everywhere to do service. Some people don't think they're good in lectures, but they give talks which are very, very powerful. Their experiences, for example. And Chandruben is like that. She would always say, no, I don't give lectures and things, but she gives talks about her experiences with Brahma Baba. Has a huge impact. I traveled with her to China and Korea. We went together, and she had a hugely good impact on everyone with her experiences of Brahmin life and Brahma Baba's particular. So those who are serviceable, they don't think about their work, but they run to do service. Some don't even do service, even though they don't have a job. They don't have that interest. So either it is not in their fortune, or they have an eclipse of bad omens. There is a lot of service to be done, and it does require some effort. Some do get tired. While explaining to others, their throats get dry. So when you're explaining in the exhibitions, you don't have a microphone. You have to talk really loudly, and all the people are all already talking to each other. So it's quite hard work. And the air is full of dust, so the throat gets bad. In fact, even the throats of those who are third class dry up, but it doesn't mean that they did very good service. Baba knows who does very good royal service. However, they have defects, and they continue to get trapped in someone's name and form. So you can be a good speaker and still get trapped. So then they are reformed by being given guidance. So do not get trapped in anyone's name and form. So what happens if you get famous is people run around trying to take you over and bring you under their influence. That's another problem. Become soul conscious. A soul is a tiny point. The Father too is a point. It takes a lot of effort to consider yourself to be a tiny point and remember Baba. Superficially, they say, Sheep Baba, I remember you a great deal, but Baba says there has to be accurate remembrance in your intellect. So how do you do that? You really have to take off your body. One interesting process of taking off your body is to take off your skin and just be a skeleton. Like in Halloween, they just have skeletons, right? And here in San Francisco, there were skeletons hanging on every tree branch and porch all over the place. It was packed with skeletons, but you can't tell who a skeleton is. With your skin, you'd know who they are, but without skin. So it's quite an interesting practice if you want to just get down to the point of light, to go down to the skeleton and just be bones. Because if you didn't have any bones, you wouldn't be able to stand up, you know. You need bones. Your skin is just a leather bag. And your organs are warm mud. And your bones are sticks that hold it in position. So that's your body. But then the soul is something altogether different. So to become that, what work? Baba says you have to remember him with a lot of patience, depth, and sincerity. But hardly anyone remembers Baba in this way. So that in a deep way, I mean subtle. Acha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, the father, Bap Dada, and the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children, and the spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. So the essence for dharna, fill your apron, the apron of the intellect, with the jewels of knowledge and donate them. Remain busy in this business and become a first-class Brahmin. So in India, there are different types of Brahmins. So one type of Brahmin is always moving around, and he has a Gita under his arm and an umbrella, and that's it, right? And he goes around and he does talks from the Gita. And then there's another type of Brahmin which receives the personal effects of dead people. That's the carnivore. And then there's other kinds of Brahmins. They do rituals, look after temples, this and that. So what kind of Brahmin? So Baba seems to be in favor of the one who has the Gita under their arm, just an umbrella for rain or sun, and just go and give talks. So second one, you are the children of the benefactor father, and therefore you must benefit everyone. Do not perform a wrong action by rejecting someone's pure feelings or by giving wrong directions. So you can interpret that in many ways, but you can understand what he means by that. The blessing is, may you be, it's called Akal Murat, and so you cannot be an immortal image. In English, it's a completely impossible. You can't be immortal and an image because an image is mortal. And so I checked this word, murat. What is murat? And I found a meaning which I liked, and that is tangible. Be tangibly immortal. Can you? So that your consciousness of being immortal can be felt by someone. Tangibly immortal. I don't know if it's good, but I like that. And then gain victory over adverse situations. All adverse situations. Adverse situations is things that destroy you. But if you're tangibly immortal, you're indestructible, invincible. Akal Murat. It really means invincible, indestructible. So tangibly immortal. And this is the means of making spiritual progress. Just as you adopt many ways for the livelihood of your body, many ways to do business. So in the same way, also adopt this means for making spiritual progress. Practice being stable as one who is tangibly immortal or invincible. Those who move along considering themselves to be tangibly immortal are protected from untimely death and death in general and all other problems. So a serious problem is something that you could die from. In order to remove mental worries, I don't think you can have any other worry than in your mind, right? So, but deep internal stress, fear, and stressful situations. Believe me, there will be stressful situations, but it's about getting stressed by, sometimes you have a stressful situation, it makes you nervous. So the nervousness is what he's talking about. Be free from the nervousness of the stressful situation. So you handle it calmly, though it is a seriously stressful situation. So to do that, erase any awareness of your old body. That means like self-consciousness, what we call self-conscious. And so you're really in your power, tangibly immortal. I like this word. You can think about it. I will think about it. And the slogan is, when you repeatedly feel something, you fail your final paper. So what is the meaning of that? Because if you don't feel, that would not be good. What he means by feel is one is react, and one is that you can easily be provoked, you can be touched. And so if you can be touched, then you can be manipulated because you react. So that if you are still reactive, your exam is the exam to find out if you react. That means if you're afraid. Because the last exam is death. And so if you're tangibly immortal and death comes along and you say, hello, let's go. And so you don't know whether or not you're afraid of death, is that right? And so in order to make it more tangible, I think that you will get, if you haven't already had, some near-death experiences. And death, as Baba mentioned in the Murli today, is to do with death of the ego. And death of ego occurs in the context of loss of face. And generally, people are unable to handle loss of face. And in some cultures, if you lose face, you are expected to commit suicide. But it's not an American way to go. So people don't do it here. But in Korea, for example, it is part of the culture that if you're in a high position and you're exposed as what you really are, and it's really bad, and you lose face, then suicide is expected. And you wouldn't be able to bear to continue to live. But it's a good example for the death of the ego death, because you have to go through that. If you can go through that, you can go through anything. And then sometimes you experience some situation where you could die, but you didn't die. But you saw it close up. And that also helps you to know whether you're afraid of death or not. Because that's really the last exam. We will die. And we have to die consciously. You don't die in your sleep as you miss it. Some people, they say we do not want to have morphine when they're in like cancer patients. They're going through their hospice time and they will die. But if you have morphine, then you're pretty heavily drugged, and so you may not be really able to deal with death as it could be dealt with, because you'll be out of it. So some people, they want to take that. Baba had a heart attack, and he said subsequently that this is the best type of death because it's fast. And, you know, you die of something, mostly. And some people, it's like very quick, very sudden, just boom. And some people very slow and drawn out. Some people a lot of pain. Some people, they're like alive but not living, you know. So, but this whole question of death is the big exam. And they say something like, if you're afraid of death, you die thousands of times before you actually die. I don't know, there are different sayings about this, but this is the exam. And as far as I can tell from this Murli, he's saying that the key thing is the ego death and examining the self to see. Ego means false. It's a mask. It's something that's not real. So this expression of being tangibly immortal, I think, is a very key one, because the immortal person is the conqueror over death. And there is this name, Mrityunjay. We have one brother whose name is Mrityunjay, the conqueror over death. My very good friend in Madhuban was Om Prakash Bhai. He left the body now, but he used to joke about how seriously they took themselves, you know. And he would see the ego, and he would make amazing jokes about it. He himself was totally free from all that. A very lovely brother. And he had walked on foot from Pakistan to India during the Civil War, which was very, very dangerous. And he went on foot. He was related to Brahma Baba. I'm not sure exactly how, but he was one of the old dadas. But now all these souls have gone to a different part in drama. We will see later on where they are and who they are. So I wonder if there are some questions on the chat.
So a couple of questions. How can being soul conscious removes the burden of sins? What is the process?
Well, it's a very deep thing and need to be thought about. Baba's been talking last few days about sin as a weight, as an energy that presses you down. It's a dark force, and it's also a shadow that prevents you from remembering Baba. It prevents you from having clarity about what the knowledge is. And it keeps you in your iron-aged sanskaras. So it's like a prison of the soul. And then if you're soul conscious, you can't be imprisoned by it. You can't be limited by it. It's because when you're body conscious, you're in it. And when you're soul conscious, you're not in it because you're not material. Sin can only be performed by someone who is not in their power. All right. For example, if you take violence and you look at how violence is administered, it's generally speaking someone who's in a position of power abusing somebody who is in their control. So like torture, for example, is like that. The person who's being tortured it's not an equal fight. The torturer has got this victim strung up and doesn't have any implements or any way to defend themselves. And so that means that torture is a sign that you are extremely weak because you're only doing it because you can. But it's very unequal. So violence is to show strength, but what it actually shows is weakness. And there's a story that illustrates it, and that is a story of the Emperor Alexander from Rome, who he wanted to conquer India, and he was told that you had to be very careful of the yogis because they got a lot of power. And he said, oh, really? Really? Well, let me find out about their power because it's a military situation. He needs to know what the enemy has. And so he invited the yogis to come and show him their power. And so they came, and they were very thin little men who were just wearing a loincloth, and they didn't have any equipment. They just came like that, barefooted. And he said, oh, I have to be afraid of you guys? And he had his big armies with all the elephants and armor and weapons and whatnot. So he said, I've been told that you're very powerful and I need to be afraid of you, but I don't really see what the problem is. Could you please show me your power? And they said, yes, we will do that. But you have to build a very, very big fire, and then we can show you our power. And so he said, okay. And they built this huge big bonfire, and it was on fire. And then they walked into it. And he said, oh, I don't have any weapon against this kind of power. people who are not afraid of death. So he didn't take over India. And so someone who is stronger than their fear of pain or fear of death or fear of loss or fear of insult or character assassination or all of these things, you got power. And it is said, Maya, Maya is a circumstance which can get you to perform a sin. And so Maya comes in the form of attraction or terror. So if you are a sinful soul, you're motivated by fear and desire. And so this shadow and this weight will make you feel less than. And so your reaction to that is to create something false, which makes you look more than. And so if you're soul conscious, you're not under these kinds of illusions. The things that are there to make you are afraid is pain and death. But you're a soul, so you don't have any pain and death problems because you're immortal. And you can't be bought because you are not motivated by a desire for recognition. People want power, they want recognition, they want money, they want to be influential. But if you're a soul, it won't do anything to you. So this is why I think that the soul consciousness makes you independent of this weight, this pressure, this attraction, repulsion, this dark shadow that has you in its prison.
What does it mean to be conqueror of sleep? How can you be one?
Well, one aspect of it is to understand how much sleep you need and give it to yourself. And so some people need 8 hours sleep. If you're a lion, I was thinking about lions earlier on, they need 18 hours sleep a day. They're a very sleepy lot. But you're not lions. So a human being, sometimes Baba has said you need 5 hours sleep at night and an hour or so in the day. So that's about 6 hours. So if you go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night and get up 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, get up at 3, or 10:30, get up at 3:30, plus you have an hour in the day, that's very sustainable. But if you push yourself and you stay up too late, this is something Daddy Janki used to often say, that don't bother to do meditation all night because you'll be useless during the Murli, because you're disturbing your rhythms. And so there's a very healthy rhythm of 10:30 to 3:30 with an hour in the afternoon. And also these time periods, they're called Muhurat. And the day is divided into different 2-hour sections. And these sections of time correspond to the normal vibrations. It corresponds to the vibrations in the day. So, and also people who do shift work, they get very disturbed because they have to work when they should be sleeping and sleep when they should be awake and all that. So the sort of diurnal rhythm of a person needs to be borne in mind if you want to have a disciplined life. So there's that aspect of it. And then the other aspect of sleep is you're not awake, you're not aware, you're not with it. And because you get caught up in gossip, or you get caught up in maybe conspiracy theories, or I don't know, other things where you're just asleep intellectually. And so we have to not be asleep like that either. And then also when you're under test, Baba will test you. So don't be asleep for a test, because you will fail. You have to understand what's the game, what's going on, what you have to do, what you have to not do. To be a conqueror of sleep, I would say you need to be giving yourself right amount of sleep at the right time, and also right amount of food at the right time and the right food. Perfection is all about balance. And so on the physical level and the social level and all the various different levels, you need to be in balance. And then also be awake, so that you are soul conscious, in that sense, awake and with it and understanding what's going on. And don't let yourself fall into the sleep of ignorance, because that's a kind of sleep also.
Sister Denise mentioned that in the predestined drama, there is sometimes a possibility of choices. How can this be discerned when you have choice?
What I have seen is that the knowledge of Dharma is about paradox. There is this Serenity Prayer which takes this up, which is all about there are certain circumstances where there's nothing you can do and you just have to accept it. There are other circumstances where you are called upon to make a choice. You have to act. And if you don't act, that'll be wrong. In circumstances where there's nothing you can do, if you do act, that would be wrong. And you need to have the wisdom to know the difference. So you know that everything is predestined. But at the same time, there are moments where the drama really calls upon you to act. And you have to notice them. So he's asking how this can be discerned. And I think you just have to be very in tune with the drama and have a very good sense of what to do when. And if you get it wrong, you'll get sort of messages from the drama to let you know that that wasn't the right thing to do. But once something has been decided, once something has been done, then you say, okay, I did it, right or wrong, I did it. Now, take advantage, how you take advantage of that situation. Because there's always a possibility of advantage, even in something that you could say, well, that was a mistake, but you're going to turn that mistake to your advantage, and then it's fine. There's something like you want to do something, and you do all the things, it seems like a good thing, but the drama stops it, won't allow it to happen. And then you have to just accept that. And that's just the way it is. And our normal criteria for deciding what's right and wrong may be off. And so we need to be, I would say, just be really in tune with the drama. There was one situation, because Daddy Janki used to try to teach us these things. And there was one situation, I was actually here in San Francisco, and I was traveling with her, and we had to go to New York from here. And there was a lot of people, and the time to get from here to the airport during the rush hour is rather, difficult. And she was being so leisurely about it all. And she was ready, but other people were not ready. So they would delay. And I was going, we're not going to make this flight. Da, 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 da. And she said, the drama is in our hands. Is in our hands. I said, Daddy, it's in your hands. And we got there in time. We did not have to rush. And we got it. But it was, to me, a very interesting experience of how, a person who is really in tune with the drama really controls it. I saw that. I felt it. I said, that's a real thing. Time, Baba often says, time is your creation. Drama is your creation. It's in your hands. I saw her do it. Unbelievable.